The Progressive Rural Party under Mr. Pindlin, people began to feel that he had been in power too long. It was 25 years. People began to feel that what we were having is a regurgitation of plans and programs. Secondly, I think that people were feeling that they were ready for a change. They wanted something new and different. And the other most important thing was that we had a bright, young, strong leader in the name of Hubert Ingraham, who really burst onto the scene and took the FNM to
I can't help but to jump in.
Yes.
What you just did is like throwing a softball. Isn't that the core of the problem of the FNM, though, today? And some people share that feeling that, not to in any way negatively play against the current leader of the FNM, but isn't that I'm not talking about a person. I know Dr. Minnis is a great person, but I'm saying, isn't that the problem that you don't have the public doesn't feel the sense that today there is this young, dynamic, whatever adjective you want to use to describe the leadership role. I mean, we don't want to jump ahead of ourselves, but I had to make that point that you with zeal you talk about what the leadership represented at the time. And so even though the people of the Bahamas at that time, you said, was tired of what existed, had an appetite for something new, and all these other things, your key point was you had a dynamic leader. Is that what the Free National Movement lacks today?
You have to understand that leadership is what I call situational. It depends on the situation, would require a certain type of leadership. Now, in politics, particularly in the Caribbean, because we are a vocal society, we find that everybody tends to listen to, boy, he could speak well. Boy, did you hear him? And so in that oral society that we're in, the person who has that gift of the gab tends to get the attention of more people. But also,
but isn't that, Mr. Smith, what politics is all about?
No, because one has to recognize that the gift of the gab, unless that is followed up by performance, it soon go away. I mean, let's be very, very direct here. There is nobody who have a better gift of the gab than the present Prime Minister. But then let's take the performance. And let's look at those things and see whether or not the performance matches the gift of the gab.
I'm sure the Prime Minister will disagree with you on that, but I take your point.
Uh-huh.
So back to you got elected in '92, and you stated why you thought the party was successful, and for that was the crowning moment of the FNM to that point. Mm-hmm. In 1997, you rode on what was even a greater high. You captured, if I remember correctly, all but 5 seats.
That's right.
At the time.
Mm-hmm.
But how quickly things changed. And 5 years later, in 2002, the party was just wiped out. What happened?
Politics is very dynamic. And I think that the big thing of the 2002 election had to do with people were beginning to feel that Mr. Ingraham was a little bit overbearing. I don't believe that he was, but that certainly was a feeling of the population. And I think that had something to do with the results of the election. The other thing...
Are you blaming Mr. Ingraham for the election loss?
I am not blaming Mr. Ingraham for the election loss. What I am saying, though, that I am saying what people are saying. And, at the end of the day, in politics, the man that leads must carry the blame. That's just what politics is all about. And if you look at in the Westminster system, when somebody loses, they pack their judgy bundle and they leave.
That has not been our current history, our recent history.
That's not been our. That has not been our. You see, I really believe that we in the Bahamas, particularly, bastardize the Westminster model. And you say it's not been our recent history. I think you would see that Mr. Ingram did when he lost.
Mr. Christie lost. He returned, and the people voted for him again. Mr. Ingram.
Yes.
Mr. Ingram.
Yes,
Mr. Ingram. You said, Mr. Ingram. Some people share the view, rightly or wrongly, that Mr. Ingram really lost in 2002 because they felt that Tommy Turnquist was really dealt the hand that he was left. But, I mean, you can argue that here or there. But the point is, Mr. Ingram came back. He was re-elected by the people. Mr. Christie was beaten and came back. And so when I refer to recent history,
I see what you're saying. Yes.